Hello and welcome to the Invincible podcast, probably the best superhero podcast in the universe. This is the show where friends get to talk all things Invincible, a comic book and animated series by Robert Kirkman, Corey Walker, and Ryan Ottley. Lots to talk about on this episode. We've got a bunch of listener emails now that Invincible Season 3 is airing for everybody to see, and the first 3 episodes are out. We've got some of the latest Invincible news. And then our full breakdown of episode 4 of season 3. To start off, I am one of your hosts, Wyatt, and joining me is Ryan.
Hello, everybody. Bill, I was trying so hard to not laugh.
You know what? I told you guys before we started I was going to cover Bill's window because I
did you? Because you did not react at all.
I 100% did that, and I'm so glad that I did. Also joining me is TJ.
Oh, hello, it's TJ, and I have a super bougie drink this time. Ryan, do you have a cocktail?
I have water.
Oh, okay.
Same.
I have this pencil that I'm playing with.
And the man with the pencil, it's Bill.
Hi, everybody.
Very excited. Is Ryan doing a spit take? Did you actually
I
make
think some water came out his nose.
Oh no.
Possibly.
All right. Well, I'm so excited to get to this episode to talk about episode 4, to talk about everybody's emails. How's everybody doing? It's been a whole week since we recorded. Our first 3 episodes were like kind of back to back. And so this has been the first time that we have also had to wait a week before talking about the episode we just watched. How's everybody doing?
Good. It was cool to see everybody's reaction to the first 3 episodes and all the Twitter stuff and you know the just everybody's mindset.
Yeah.
For all 3 episodes.
Friend of the podcast, Mara, showed Ryan like her feed was just
tweeted about it too.
Crazy, like everything for you page on like TikTok, and me too. It's been blowing up. It's been insane. It's been an awesome week so far.
Yep.
It's always hard to tell. It's always hard to tell because I know that I'm in like an Invincible bubble just from the algorithm knowing that like I'm posting about it and talking about it. But yeah, it really has been like just. I've seen tons of people that are usually covering, you know, the big MCU stuff or just big pop culture stuff, you know, raving about season 3. The buzz around season 3 seems super, super positive, and it's been very, very exciting to see after season 2 having this kind of like start and then stop, and it never really feeling like it quite took off the way season 1 did. It's been so cool to see everybody's reactions.
And in comparison to season 1, where you had that 3 episode launch, all anyone was really talking about, especially at the beginning, was the end of episode 1.
Yeah.
And this past week, everything has been about all 3 episodes equally because there is so much good in all 3. It wasn't like, it's all, there's this one thing at the end of the first episode, and then there's these other episodes. Like, but this one was just all of them. It was great.
The amount of like TikToks I've seen just of people in love with Oliver and like really enjoying him. I know we're still in the era of Rexplode. We're still in his like moment that he's having, but it feels like Oliver is now on the rise as well, just in the show fandom. It makes me feel
that's what's nice too, is that like it's not just one character. It's like people are freaking out about like multiple characters having like, you know, that are as exciting. So real quick, so as of right now on Rotten Tomatoes, it is still at a 99%.
Awesome.
Nice.
Oh, it dropped 1%.
How many are we up to? Reviews?
Let me 21.
Wow. Okay, cool.
Oh no, sorry, 22. 22 and then 21 are fresh and 1 is not so fresh.
Yeah. So is it season 1 that was still 100 or season 2?
I don't remember. Bill, you can look that up while we.
Season 2 is at 100 right now.
And does 100% mean it has 0 rotten, or it's just a more of a percentage that it's allowed to have a couple if it's that many?
I always assumed that it was just fresh or rotten, but that doesn't make sense because 1 out of 22 is not 1% either. So
true.
I think that was maybe total reviews, including the popcorn meter.
Yeah.
But
listeners, leave a comment. Tell us how Rotten Tomatoes works. Jumping into some of the Invincible news that's happened, at least since the last time we recorded. And granted, it is the Tuesday before the Thursday that episode 4 will come out for everybody. So that's where we're at in time.
Which we're going to always aim to kind of record. We mentioned this at the end of one of our previous episodes, but we're always going to aim to record the Tuesday before the new episode. This week being a little different, get your emails and thoughts in sooner after listening to or after watching episode 4. We're going to have to record a few days after episode 4 goes live.
Yeah. But going into some of the news, obviously Invincible season 3 premiered our first 3 episodes. They unveiled that poster that goes along with those first 3 episodes. Very, very cool. Very reminiscent of the season 1 and season 2 posters that we got. Are they selling that in the shop too?
I don't think so. They stopped doing that halfway through season 2.
It was they stopped putting the posters out and the t-shirt, like the posters on t-shirts. The week that Rexplode was the main
got his poster. That's right. That's right. I remember
next that's a poster. That's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
It's over.
You can't buy it. You can't get it on a shirt.
Yeah. And then of course on our channel you can see like our breakdowns of those first 3 episodes, as well as just all over YouTube, people's reaction videos, people's impressions, memes, and all of that. I sent you guys one a while back of the Oliver standing over the Mauler twins grave that like I was just so excited. Like once I started seeing memes of the season, it's like, we're back in prime Invincible time.
That's right.
We got a couple of videos of both Simu Liu and Walton Goggins in the booth recording for season 3, which are just awesome. They've been really, really great to see some of the behind the scenes stuff.
It was cool to see how intense Simu Liu gets.
Yeah.
And then seeing Walton Goggins just talking, man.
His shirt open, just casually. He's just
but it's also
casual.
neat to see that he is doing a voice. You know what I mean? That's not. It doesn't sound like him in Fallout or anything else. Like he does have a voice to it, and it was cool seeing that.
But it doesn't even look like he's trying. He's just like
talking. I know.
He just is Cecil.
It's not. Yeah. It's very cool.
They of course announced some new merch of 3 different shirts that are themed around these 3 episodes. And when I tell you, I bought that Oliver shirt the minute that I realized what it was. It's my doodle from episode 3. Like I had to buy it. I had no choice. But yeah, the Colds gym, the There Will Be Blood or Blood Will Spray in the White Room, I think is the second one, and then one of Oliver. Very cool.
Very limited drops though. Like I think it's only 2 days.
Yeah, so I believe if you're hearing
it's already off the shop.
Yeah, I believe if you're hearing this, it's no longer on the shop, but there should be, I believe, some new ones for episode 4 if you're listening. So looking forward to seeing what those are.
Yeah, exactly.
There was a Q&A video with Robert Kirkman, Sandra Oh, and Jillian Jacobs. Some fun little tidbits came out of that. They announced that Invincible is the #1 show in the US on Prime, which is super cool to see that it's still
every time
doing well. Like every time it does like shoot up and end up as #1 gives me lots of hope that, Amazon will continue to see this as a very successful show that they want to keep going for many, many seasons.
That's right.
J.K. Simmons did an interview where he mentioned that he has at least already started on recording for season 4. Said that at least he has. He wasn't like confirming if other people have, but just cool to know that work continues and that hopefully we keep the cadence of very frequent seasons.
Yeah, we knew that they had gotten picked up for season 4.
Yeah.
We also know that voice work is one of the first things that is done. So this is like a nice confirmation that like hopefully the voice work is well underway. Yeah, they have at least a year to do the rest.
Yeah. It's definitely one of those stories that like if no one had started voice work, then we would start worrying. This is the thing where it's like, okay, good. It sounds like everything.
I think they got a good handle now.
Yeah.
He also mentioned in that interview that Omni-Man would beat the dog shit out of Superman.
That was great. Yeah. He said, I'll use one hand for each of them.
Yes.
It's so good.
I don't necessarily know about Superman, but for sure Homelander he would fucking destroy.
Just think about what Omni-Man did in the Flaxen Dimension. Like he would destroy Superman.
Even if they're equal strength, one has a conscience. I feel like, I guess
Yeah.
depending on which Omni-Man we're talking about.
That's
but
true.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. That they did release a little teaser trailer for episode 4, which again, by now, if you're listening to this, you've already seen the whole thing. But I was very surprised what they showed
Right?
in that
Yeah.
trailer especially for comic readers. I feel like the minute you see that trailer, you kind of know at least what we're getting in the first half of this episode. So it
Yep.
was surprising to me they showed that. Definitely for non-comic readers, I could see it being very enticing if you don't know kind of where a lot of those things are happening. But yeah, it's definitely cool to see they'll be making those trailers. Also, a thing that hopefully this teaches you that if you don't want any like spoilers or things, that you should try to avoid those for sure.
Now, I'm trying to think. Obviously, if you're listening to this, you've already watched episode 4. The trailer doesn't show anything about the second half of the episode, right?
No,
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, that's what
it does. It shows Alan bust out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it shows Alan bust out of his cell into the hallway.
Oh,
right.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, if they would have kept that part, then it's
Yeah,
like,
you're
oh,
right.
that's
I
the
thought it
real-
was mostly focusing on the first half, but you're right. It does show that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because technically,
Um,
the whole breakout and everything,
Yeah.
that's
And-
all
and
after credits.
This
Technically,
is literally what we've talked about in season 1 and season 2. They are going to promote the show. They are going to do little teasers and trailers beforehand.
Yeah.
You know,
And
We
and
just
the people,
know, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
And
So-
the people who are working on the like promotion and marketing of the show know what they need to do to try and like make it successful and get as many eyes on it as possible. And if that means I gotta avoid things to make sure I don't get spoiled, or comic fans need to try and avoid that, I think that's just part of shows coming out in 2025. You know,
that shot in the trailer, that little tease of because you're watching it because you watched episode 4 of King Immortal, like his behind, I'm like, that is such a good, like, if I didn't know, I'd be like, who the fuck is that? Like, very well done, very good trailer.
Yeah. And then they also released the episode 1 through 3 comic to screen short little video online as well, showing like panels to go along with it. It's always so neat to see, and especially now that like we talked about it a lot in our breakdowns, and it continues in this episode. We're so close to the comic now. Like it's more so than ever not really straying away from the comic, at least not in the broad strokes. And so it's really cool to see all of those like very direct parallels.
it's so close. So close.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And then lastly, just another reminder that we've partnered up with Ubisoft Barcelona Mobile to celebrate the season 3 events happening in Invincible Guarding the Globe. And they've had an update that is now coming that is introducing 2 new heroes, Multipal and Oliver. The best.
Yeah.
The best one.
We did
Very
drop those
exciting.
names, but it's not who we thought. We were really leaning into the 2 hero thing.
Yeah, for sure. I
So-
thought they'd be somehow related as like a duo, but I could not be happier that Oliver's in there. I've been a little bit lapsed in playing, so I'm very excited to get back to it and get Oliver and start leveling him up. And since I'm kind of hosting this week's episode, the code, if you want to redeem it for 100 molecular enhancements in game, is Wyatt3, and you can see that down at the bottom of our screen. They of course are having some like different events. There's those new heroes, but also a Valentine's Day themed event. 2 more chapters added to the story mode. Lots of cool stuff happening in the game. And if you want to redeem that code, you can go to redeem.invincible.ubisoft.barcelona to go and redeem that code, which you saw on the screen if you're watching on YouTube.
All right.
And that means we can move into some of our emails from our listeners. This is exciting because it's the first time we're doing an episode breakdown where people have seen some of the episodes, have written in with what they had to say. We can't read all of the emails because we got a ton, which is really exciting that so many people are not only watching the show, but tuning in and wanting to write into us. So thank you to everybody who wrote in. We picked out quite a few of them still. If we don't get to your email, though, we are planning in the next couple of weeks or so to do a bit of a live episode where we hang out with the chat, where we talk about how the show's gone so far, what we're expecting for like the final episodes. So we don't have a hard date for that, but keep an eye on our Twitter and other socials for when we're going to be doing that. So if we don't get to your email, you can always come hang out and just talk to us live in the chat.
That's right.
We do that.
And there were quite a few that we did get, and I feel bad that we didn't get to all of them, but we did get some
It
people
would be a
that reached
full
out
episode,
to-
guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it would just be emails, and that'll kind of be what the live chat is. We're just gonna kind of hang out and talk to you guys and hear your thoughts. Shout out to Julio, Simple Music, Biscuit, Alejandro, Scott, and Kevin. Those were all emails that came in that didn't quite make the cut
Also,
this time.
Jamie Kelly also wrote us in.
And Jamie Kelly. Thank you guys
But
for writing in. We definitely are all still reading all of them, and like we're definitely saving some for when we do that live show too, that we can still read out as well. To start us off, though, I will go ahead and read one that we got from Mike. It says, "Hey, Invincible Podcast. So much to love about season 3 thus far, but I gotta ask, am I the only one that stood up and clapped at the end of episode 2 credits scene? Mark and Eve finally together. Us comic readers knew it was coming, but the way the show wrote and portrayed it, chef's kiss, standing ovation. How perfect was that scene? Happy early Valentine's Day to all Invincible fans." That's right, because if you're listening to this on Thursday, tomorrow's Valentine's Day. Love, Mike. And yeah, I totally agree. It's so good. We were definitely, when that happened, I started clapping right away, because it is like, it's one of those things where we know it's coming, but it's so satisfying, especially after, 2 full seasons of just flirting with that idea of them getting together, and to finally see them become a couple, and to get the line of, so are we dating or what? And have that sort of remixed in the way that the show did it. Was so exciting, so great.
And also this episode 4, kind of
we
were so concerned about how are they going to sell this relationship to us in such a quick way, and we were a little nervous about that. We talked about that, but we're sold now. Like, they did such a good job.
The little montage they did to show that they actually have a history, I was like, oh yeah, they do have chemistry. So
thanks, Mike. I have one here from Owen Seiler. Owen says, "Hello once again, members of the Invincible Podcast. It's been a hot minute since I've taken the time to write an email, which I believe was when the season 2 finale came out back in April last year. But here we are with not only the debut of season 3, but also a brand new Battle Beast series written by Robert Kirkman and drawn by Ryan Ottley coming in April. First off, initial season 3 impressions based off the first 3 episodes. It genuinely astounds me how the further we go into the show, the better it gets. Episode 2 genuinely might be my favorite episode of the series so far, with how it delves into Cecil's backstory and how it molded him into the man he is today. The conflict between him and Mark, both the physical fight and the moral debate over Cecil working with known criminals and murderers, the fallout that comes with that conflict, and the true beginning of Mark and Eve's relationship.
A lot of people loved episode 2. A lot of people.
I think we were a little bit in the minority when it came to liking 3 more.
Yeah, we never really discussed it, but I think I did like 2 more than 3. Me and Matt were talking about it too, and it's like, sorry, just like episode 2 it felt more like a finale to me. Not saying anything negative about. I loved episode 3, but it was just from beginning to end craziness, and you still got all the characters, but all the characters were were involved in the same storyline, and it was just fucking insanity from beginning to end. I love 3, but I think 2, I agree, is it's kind of my favorite right now.
Yeah, I've enjoyed seeing like that kind of discourse online about the show, because it's helped me realize things that happened in 2 that maybe I sold a little short and didn't really notice as much, right? Like it's cool to see people have different reactions, because then I look back and go, oh yeah, 2 is up there as one of the all-time greats of the show. Like, I mean,
Oliver and the Maulers, and Oliver, covered in blood, and the talk he has with Mark, and then the Angstrom stuff, the stuff with Eve on the roof, like getting the orbs and everything like that, all make it really good. But the Tether Tyrant intro,
right. I knew you were going to say that.
The thing that makes it just a little bit better than 2 for me, because it takes it gives us comic lovers that little something new that is also incredible.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was going to say, is that felt so new and fresh that it just kind of, I think, set us up from the start to feel like it was the best.
Call it a gimmick, and it's unfair that a gimmicky thing makes it better than what was actually happening in 2, but goddamn, it fucking worked. And nothing comes close. Go ahead, Ryan, finish up.
Owen continues, I also think it features some of the best voice acting, writing, and animation of the whole series. If the rest of the season can keep up with the quality of that episode, especially come the finale, we're in good hands. Second, the Battle Beast comic. I've been chomping at the bit to see what Robert and Ryan would follow up on the Battle Beast story from Skybound X25 all the way back in July of 2022. And to know we're getting a full-fledged series focusing on Battle Beast in April has me just so glad that this is how we return to the world of Invincible in the comics. And guys, I don't know if we talked about it, but Robert Kirkman said in an interview that it is ongoing.
Yeah.
There is not a set, like,
very exciting.
I just have this like mindset that Robert and Ottley just sit down together and they say to themselves, like, what can we do to keep the Invincible podcast going? That's their only priority. And we appreciate it. We appreciate
it's
it.
Hard not to
be
feel
here
like
forever.
all of this is happening just for us, because there really are like catering just to us. It just so happens to be a huge fan base out there also.
I'm pretty sure this will probably be the first year in history of this podcast, which is going on 9 years, that every month we should have something like new, significant, crazy. Okay.
If no one believes that everything is for us at the podcast, we literally got a fucking intro of Tether Tyrant. Like, obviously they're like, we gotta hook them up over at the Invincible podcast. All right, go ahead.
All right. Owen says, to close out, here's a doodle I did of my favorite moment from episode 3, because I was giddy when they brought it over from Invincible from the comics. And a question I have for you all: if we do get around to the Invincible War later this season, do you think they're going to do what they did in the comics? Would they bring in other iconic Image heroes like Spawn and Savage Dragon? Or do you think they'll be replaced with other characters Skybound owns, like Tech Jacket or Wolfman? Till next time, Owen Seiler.
That's cool. By the way,
that's awesome doodle. I don't think we're gonna get any of those other.
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna get Spawn or Savage Dragon. I fucking hope we get Tech Jacket or Wolfman, but I also don't know if we're gonna get them either. So.
I think we're going to get the heroes that we already saw this season. They're leaning into like these. I can't think of it. These original characters that they've created for the show, the original side characters. I think we're going to see a lot more of them.
I'm hoping that they're just saving. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think best case scenario is we get Tech Jacket and Wolfman. I don't think anything really beyond those ones that we'd see, or like Brit possibly. But in the same way we saw Science Dog, Seance Dog, like there's a lot of things that go into the rights when adapting this into a Prime show that like they might need to just rely on the characters that the new ones they've introduced now in the show.
Oh,
I'm hoping that if they do,
go ahead, TJ.
They are doing it. I'm hoping that it's just because they're saving it for the finale or the Invincible War. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I'm hoping that it's true.
Here's my hot take. The reason why Wolfman and Tech Jacket and Brit and whoever else aren't in the show is because they're not part of this universe. But what if they are in the Invincible War because they're from one of those alternate Marks realities?
Oh, that's fun.
Wouldn't that be fucking awesome?
That they get like pulled into.
If they like popped in because they're like, oh no, we got to stop them. And I would fucking die if that happened.
They're just trapped in our dimension and all their loved ones back
forever. Who cares? I don't care. You're with us now. Deal with it.
But yeah, thanks, Owen.
Yeah.
I think TJ, you have the next one. Yeah.
Oh shit! This one comes from Marco Hutchins. He says, "Hi guys, nothing much to add yet, but just wanted to say I love the format of how you recapped each episode individually. I don't have time to watch more than one episode a day right now, so I'm really appreciating how you chose to do the recaps." Marco.
Thanks, Marco. Yeah, we really wanted to give each episode the time it deserves. Like these 3 episodes, even though they released at once, and a lot of other YouTubers or whatever are doing it as one bulk thing, these are 3 separate, things that we want to spend time talking about. And so, and we wanted to like have the conversations before watching the next one, and like so, there's a bit of selfishness in there too that we just wanted to. But yeah, I'm glad it works out.
Yeah. It was an actual conversation that we had, like in depth of how we were going to format it. So I'm glad that people, and that's the general consensus. People liked that, even though it was 3 episodes all at once. Like, they enjoyed that it was like that. Yeah.
And it was really fun doing the premiere too when we launched the episode. So we're gonna have to do that again.
Oh yeah. Hopefully you're watching this on the premiere and saying hi to us in the chat.
Yeah.
Bill, I think you have the next one.
I do have one. I don't know if I have a name attached to it yet, but I'll just delve in. Hello, Invincible Podcast. I am positively shaking with joy at the moment. Season 3 is here. The issue where Mark goes to the Guardian of the Globes base during the fight with Cecil has always been my favorite. Favorite with a U, guys. Not with just an O. Interesting. All right.
It's Canadian French.
So when I watched episode 2, I sat there with a manic smile on my face. I love how almost everyone can't choose a side between Mark and Cecil. It truly shows just how good the writing is. A scene I really want to talk about is when Oliver had just killed the Maulers and flies away from Mark. For a brief moment, we see Oliver crying. Oliver has been such a highlight this season, but sometimes it's easy to forget just how young he is. Him holding back tears because his big brother just yelled at him for something he doesn't entirely understand was perfect. I feel like I could start tearing up just now reading this.
Yeah.
His emotions are so well handled and feels more like a real character rather than a dark mirror character to Mark. Oliver's situation is honestly so fucked, but I'm living for it. I love this sweet little insectile psycho baby. Got it. Oh man, got lucky on that one. Here are my doodles. I actually drew the Mark one last year, but forgot to send it. I'm at _BE3. We're everywhere. Have an amazing rest of your day or nights.
Wow.
Very cool. It's very like Dustin Nugent. I like it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's very awesome.
We might have to start putting in a rule that, like, guys, we use whiteboards. All right. Stop like impressing us so much with all of these like very well done doodles.
Oh, that kind of covered up your face there, Wyatt. Sorry. But yeah, love this. And Jenna wrote in last year too.
Awesome.
She was great.
Yeah.
Very,
Awesome
very
job.
cool. Well done.
Well done. All right. And that, I think, Ryan, you have the next one.
Oh, I do. All right. This one comes from Jordan Gilbert. This podcast asked me to write This podcast asked me to not write this, but God damn it, I'm going to write it anyway because I wrote it and it's the truth. I fucking love this show. It is the best superhero show, period. What movie? I don't know.
What is
I don't know what that's from.
I fucking love this show. It is the best superhero show, period.
Unless it's
you gotta let us know.
where it asked me not to write this, but I'm going to write it anyways, and it's the truth. I don't know. You have to write back with the movie.
Tell us in the comments.
Long time no talk, gentlemen. I hope all is well. Now that I have it all that out of the way, I absolutely love how the show is handling the pacing. I can't think of a single complaint or preference on how it should be handled, but they are knocking it out of the park. My questions for you guys. Ray Splode. I am here for it, but sadly, I don't think it will last. And we decided to pause on the spoilers there. You have some other spoilery questions, but I think on our live show we might get into spoilers.
Yeah.
You know, we'll make a
allude to some things like we brought up the Invincible War, or like things are coming, but we don't want to get too exact.
But yes, man,
we hear you.
We hear you. Second question.
It's genius. It's fucking genius.
Second question. Do you guys think Powerplex's sister was a victim during the Omni-Man train escapade, or a victim of a building being destroyed, just like in the comic? Quite frankly, I think because the show put such a major emphasis on the train scene, I feel like it would hit harder with a reveal like this. Curious to your guys' input on it. Love always, Jordan. We're definitely getting Conquest, guys. Full fight.
I think it could have been that little girl that he couldn't save in the building.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like that was like when he was holding that building up.
That was my thought when we watched that episode, but he's right that like the train scene is one that everybody remembers. So to have like Powerplex confront him being like they had to just like find her remains that probably bounced off of, like calling back to that would remind you how like it could, I think, put a lot of people on Powerplex's side, you know?
Yeah, he could say something like she was on the subway headed towards me to
without
for a family dinner or something like that, and that's it. Like,
yes, I don't think it should be a person that we saw in the show. Like, I don't want it to be that conveniently tied to it or anything. But yeah, mentioning that maybe she was on the subway heading home or something the day it happened and she never made it home type thing. That's smart. I like that.
And
But we'll
going
see.
back real quick to what something Jenna mentioned of like everybody online debating whether Mark or Cecil are right. That's one of the more common things I've seen on my TikTok as well, where it's either I'll be on one video and they'll be like, man, Mark is an idiot and Cecil's the smartest one on the show. And let me tell you why. And then I swipe and it's somebody going, I can't believe Cecil's such a jerk. Mark is in the right here.
Dude, they
And like,
nailed it.
it's so great to watch people arguing as people who've read the comic to sit back and go, you get it, don't you? Like that's what this
That's
is.
it.
Like, congratulations, you're here. Welcome. Like
welcome.
that's the point of the story. It's so great. Like I'm loving that. All right,
So
I
good.
can take the next one from Travis. He says, "Hey, Invincipals. Wow, what a season so far. You guys are probably getting tons of emails, so I'll try to be quick. The main cast of Mark, Debbie, and Eve are great, but I really enjoyed Cecil's character development, Oliver's interactions, the Guardians' small civil war, Rex's attempt at growth, the magnificent musical montage with Tether Tyrant and Magmaniac was magical, and Paul's real estate joke made me laugh out loud. There are two reasons I'm emailing you. First is my love for the dimensional title card shift. Right before the first one, I was on the edge of my seat waiting to see what the show team had in store for this season, and it did not disappoint. I also love the off-kilter Invincible theme playing during each shift title card because it reminds me of the Batman Beyond episode where Superman was possessed by Starro and an altered version of his theme played while he was chasing Terry. Second, I don't look ahead or search the interweb for information about the show, but when you mentioned that Jonathan Banks was added to the cast as an undisclosed role, I knew exactly who he would play. Universa. When I think about a hot alien chick wearing almost nothing and being a total badass, I think of the actor who played Mike Ehrmantraut and voiced Commissioner Gordon. I mean, Ed Asner voiced Granny Goodness in the Superman cartoon, and he was awesome. I look forward to more episodes of Invincible this season and the breakdowns of those episodes from the Invincible podcast. Thank you, and sorry for the long message. Love, Thetis, a.k.a. Travis. I mean, it's very possible. You know
Could
what
be.
I mean? Jonathan Banks is a versatile actor. Don't put him in a box.
Do it all.
Yep.
He doesn't have to play an old bald man. He could be
That's
anybody.
That's right.
And then TJ, I think you have the last one. Oh no, we have a couple, right?
We got a couple, yeah.
Two more.
I do have the next one from Sean. He says, "Dear Invincible Podcast, longtime listener, first time emailer. I wanted to ask you guys about something that I thought was interesting. At the end of episode 3, we saw Mark and Oliver argue about what happened to the Mauler twins. It was shot for shot from the comic, except for the last line where Oliver asks if Mark ever thinks their dad was right. And instead of Mark saying sometimes, he just remains silent. So do you guys like this powerful moment of silence, or do you wish he had said what he had said in the comic?" Can I take this?
Yeah,
go for it.
I feel that him saying sometimes in the comic, I believe it ended the issue. It was the last thing of the issue, was the last page. Makes perfect sense for a comic, and this makes perfect sense for a show. And I think it just works perfectly for both. And I don't think that the opposite would have worked for each other as well. That's my opinion.
If you would have told me before, especially after Wyatt doing it in an issue spotlight, like that's such a iconic moment in this series. And if you told me they weren't going to have him say the line, I would be a little nervous and a little worried about that. I didn't think twice. It happened, and I'm like, yeah, that's the right move. And you say it's shot for shot. I mean, Oliver flying away and crying, that is not the same as the comic. You know, I mean, they are both in a little bit of a different place. You know, we talked about it on that episode breakdown. Like, Oliver is confused and scared, and Mark is just struggling right now to keep his composure and raise this little boy. And I think by him just staying silent shows both for him and the viewers that Mark is unsure. And the silence still says maybe. We got to be honest. Like, him not answering is still him saying sometimes or maybe. It was perfect. I loved it.
I think also it's a little bit more consistent with the theme of this season so far, and we're 3 episodes in. So it would make zero sense for Mark to be so to literally sever his ties with Cecil over his moral compass, and then all of a sudden he's just like, oh yeah, sometimes I do agree that dad was right, and it tracks better with the theme that they're really pressing in the show, that he didn't say anything. Not to mention it's a more mature answer because you have this little kid who you're trying to not confuse, and you're trying to like do the right thing. So if you said sometimes, it would just fuck everything up. So for many reasons, not saying sometimes was the better choice. Not saying I didn't like it in the comic,
of course,
but I like it better in the show.
I think in the comic, it makes me want to be like, what do you mean by that, Mark? Which times is he right? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
which of the
makes
sum?
Me want to know.
Which
I need you to be more specific.
Can you elaborate
what
on
you
that?
mean by that? So him not saying anything, it is just like I don't know, where's he at right now?
Is it the pizza that he gets from Rome? Is that what you sometimes
Is that when he's right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or is it the subway scene? We don't know.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Sean. And I've got the last one here. It's so nice to be back watching new Invincible stuff. Absolutely adore the Cecil episodes. He's easily been the MVP of the season to me. Parentheses, Debbie was season 1 and Amber season 2.
Nice.
I would agree. Yeah, those are good takes. Who would you designate as your MVP of each season so far?
I mean, for me, there's no question. I'm on team Insectile Psycho Baby, as Jenna put it earlier. Oliver is my MVP for this season so far.
He said for each season, right?
Yeah,
for each season.
Oh, for each season.
Yeah, this is
difficult.
tough.
I'm gonna go Alan season 2 because any moment that Alan was like on screen in season 2, were just like he really shined in those moments.
I would say if I were to,
I think yes, Debbie season 1. I 100% agree. I mean, we talked at length last season about how season 2 was Rexplode seasons. Come on.
Yeah, I think it was.
It is.
You're right.
Right?
You're right. All right.
That's fair. That's fair.
I would say these are all good, except I would say season 1 was Omni-Man. Like it doesn't even. No one even comes close for me because he just had so many iconic moments in that first season that were awesome, like and emotional and brutal and everything. Every end of the spectrum. Omni-Man.
Go fuck yourself, Dark Blood. That's a moment that I always think of.
I mean,
like
also Debbie throwing the wine bottle. You know what I mean? That scene in general, like, we could go in circles making arguments.
And I'm putting it out there, like on deck SVP, like for season 3, maybe Adam Eve. We'll see.
Oh yeah.
But so far,
okay. All right. A couple more paragraphs here. Also, how are y'all watching it this season? Getting together or watching with each other on Zoom to chat? So we're watching it via like this.
And if you've seen our reacts yet, that's how
we're watching it. That's also our reacts are up too. So if you haven't checked those out, they're just tidbits of our reactions. Pretty fun. My prediction for episode 4 is Dinosaurus. I'm going to be
still the email, right?
Yeah, I'm going to be so insufferable when he actually shows up. I fucking love you, Mitch. Love y'all. Have a fantastic season. Love Mitch Krasen. 100% agree with you. Dinosaurus is going to show up this episode. I can't wait to see it.
I just worry about if that happens. I feel like Bill and Mitch need to host just a one-on-one podcast.
Right.
Just the Dinosaurus cast.
The Dinosaurus podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just worry about the ratings of the show when Dinosaurus comes. I
know they're not going to have the bandwidth to handle all the audiences watching it. I agree, TJ. They're going to crash. They're going to crash Amazon.
All right. Those are.
This is why we couldn't get to all of the emails. Right? Like, we just got through the emails, haven't even gotten to the breakdown, and I already need to make another drink.
We had a 3-episode premiere, guys. I'm not sure we're going to do that many emails every episode, but we had a lot that we wanted to talk about. Thank you all for sending your emails, though. You can email us at theinvinciblepodcast@gmail.com.
And now we're going to jump right in to our main topic, which is the breakdown of episode 4 of season 3. The midway point, what would be a mid-season finale if we were having a break. Thankfully, we are not.
That's right.
But we are on episode 4 now. The title is "You Were My Hero," which appeared in issue 56 of the comic, which we see a very similar scene in this.
Again, didn't say it in the show though, did he?
So cool.
No,
he did not say it in the show. No.
Yep.
The Viltrumite saying, I regret that it's come to this. You were my hero.
Yeah.
And it's I remember seeing this scene in the episode, and I thought it was like the same angle and everything, but just the way they've captured, the way they're circling him and everything, they're the way, it's so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Runtime of 47 minutes. This was written by Tanya Lotia. Hopefully I'm saying her name right. And the director is Ian Abondo, who directed episode 2 of season 2 and episode 7 of season 2, the Anissa episode.
Oh,
Yeah, great episodes. Before we jump into the full breakdown, going scene by scene, what was everybody's initial impressions? What did you guys think?
So we are watching them a little early, so we didn't get the trailer. Like, we didn't know what we were walking into. So I mean, our reacts isn't done yet for this one, but I'm sure you'll be able to see that, like, once we got to Mark and Eve's date, we all like reacted, and like we kind of expected what was coming when it came to King Immortal. So that was a huge surprise for us. Also, loved how they didn't make it a full episode. Loved it. Loved how they split it into 2. It didn't need to be a full episode. Just stick to what it was, and then move on from it. And it was, again, just, I mean, the overall consensus, the overall line that we just keep repeating so far in all of our breakdowns is stick the landing, and they have been. Just everything we've been talking about King Immortal since they announced that there was going to be an animated series, like looking forward to seeing that in animated form, and they stuck the landing. So and then everything with that came after that was obviously incredible. Like, we got the fucking return of Battle Beast. Let's go.
This is one of those times where I feel like I was watching in like silent concentration. Like, I feel like I didn't react a lot to this one because like TJ brought up, like, this is one of the, like, the King Immortal thing is probably a top 3 single issue for me as a personal favorite. And to see it like happen, it was just perfect. Like, as it's happening, it was so exciting to see. And so I was just like kind of absorbing this whole episode. And if ever there was an episode this entire season that benefited from a second watch, it was this one. Because after the episode ended, after the first time, I was like, that was really good. And it felt really long. And it felt like 2 episodes because that's how it was broken up. And then I didn't really think too much on it until I watched it a second time. And while I was watching it, I felt like I was more blown away the second time with how much was in it and how cool it was and how well it was done, to the point where when we get that first title card, or the credits card, I was like, oh wait, that's right, it keeps going. It was so much fun. It was so much fun. And of course the Eve and the Mark date, like, I was just grinning like an idiot. I loved it.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And I can't remember if I had guessed on air or if it was something that I said off air, but I remember saying, when was the Alan episode in season 2? Wasn't it episode 4? So then I kind of guessed that they would have done the same thing here, and I guessed we were going to get 3.
I think season 2 was episode 3 was the Alan.
Was it episode 3 or was it episode 4?
Episode 3 of season 2.
Oh, yeah, was
4 was the black hole.
Oh yeah. Either way, it was great. Like, that whole, I'm so glad that the show has like reoccurring things that they do that are awesome, that don't get old. Like, it's not something that I'm tired of yet. Like the whole, Invincible, and like, the title card, and just this thing now. I hope they keep doing it, and I loved it. It was a great episode.
I echo everything that you guys said. This feels like it's sort of split into 2 mini episodes, and both of them are just like perfect little mini episodes of the show. Like, it's so exciting. So to jump into our full breakdown, we start off with Rex and Ray grocery shopping, because Ray's telling him, people aren't going to cook for us anymore. We got to figure this out. They have a fun little back and forth about how Rex used to just use his robot's credit card to order pizzas and all that, and how he almost died of scurvy one year from what he was eating. And he's like, are you really going to cook this stuff? And she's like, I'll figure it out on the internet of what to do. And they're shopping for a while. Rex goes to, I think Rex is eating like off-brand vanilla wafers for most of the time, is what they look like.
Vanilla wafers or whatever.
And then we see like a bus show up, and then a villain starts attacking outside, right? And so he and Ray both kind of like rush off to go and fight the villain. I think Rex throws a few of the vanilla wafers and it like charges them up and throws them, which was fun.
So I'm pretty sure this is Gridlock, I think his
Yeah.
name is. So
you called it out when we were watching it, and I meant to look up who exactly this was, but I forgot to.
Early on in the comic, it was something, I don't know if I'm mixing like the back matter of Robert Kirkman talking about how they met, or if Nolan mentions that he met Debbie while fighting Gridlock. And that's a term you use when you're fighting like traffic, when you're stuck in.
Oh yeah. I just looked him up. 100% it is Gridlock.
But he is his name. Yeah. He just looks like a road because his name's Gridlock. Like, I love that. It's a cool villain name and a cool villain, B villain to throw in. This is like C villain. This isn't even a B villain.
Yeah.
This is.
Yeah, I mean, it was one that I had to look up for sure. So definitely not your Tether Tyrant and your Mike Main,
definitely not.
I mean, they're A tier now. So then we get a scene of Invincible kind of investigating the exploded orb. So he goes to visit the teen team and starts kind of explaining to them about how the orb was spying on him and his family. He's kind of telling them all about it when Rex and Ray kind of come back in. Robot is explaining that, he can't really tell anything about it other than it's of Earth origin. It's very advanced. There's a cute moment where like Amanda's a little annoyed of Rudy for like sometimes speaking through the robot and sometimes speaking on his own. She's like, don't do that. It's weird.
Like, don't finish each other's sentences type thing.
Yeah.
And I love
they say sorry in unison.
Yeah, it's funny, but you can actually tell like she's like really serious. She's like, don't do that. It's creepy.
Yeah. And again, she's trying to make him like more human, I think is the theme between the two of them right now.
And I like those reminders that like Robot Rudy, like that's like his thing is like he can, he's like a master multitasker, he's just that fucking smart. So I like that they keep doing that.
Yeah, for sure. Eventually, they talk about how it had to be somebody with a lot of resources to be able to do this. So Mark is assuming it's Cecil, goes to attack at the Pentagon, tears through a few Reanimen, and then the pulsing sound starts coming from the walls that Cecil has now installed in the hallways of the Pentagon to knock Mark out.
So my first reaction of that too was like, is it still in his fucking ear? Like Robot didn't get it out?
Yeah. It was kind of a surprise.
And this was the Wolfman tie-in when he first shows up and does this. And that doesn't happen in the comic, right? Like they don't, Cecil doesn't have this ability. We do see it maybe a little bit later in the comic, but making it not be the earpiece, very smart. And that was really cool to see.
So he's kind of accusing Cecil. It was definitely you guys. I know you're lying to me about it. And Cecil basically tells him, if we wanted to spy on you, you'd never know it. Eventually Mark gets like a text message and Cecil does the like, oh, don't let us keep you. Like they're very adversarial at this point. And Mark is just covered in Reanimen blood and says, this isn't over while he's like hovering and then takes off through the ceiling. And Mark feels like a villain right here. Cause Cecil is even like, that was a terrifying way to start my day. Like he's scared of Mark the way he is just plowing through things right now.
He didn't just like fly through the ceiling. He first lifted himself slowly off the ground. He's hovered for a second above just Cecil and said, this is not over.
Yeah.
And then flew like that's so good.
And like we've mentioned things like the Invincible War, the idea of like Mark now in this season being in a new costume than people are used to and acting in a way that is a bit scary, I feel like plays so well into where we're going. And like, I'm so excited to see that explored if and when we get there.
Yeah.
So then we cut to Mark realizing he's late. That's what was on his phone. We see that he still has Sam's dog as his background. Checks the time, realizes that he's late for his second first date with Eve. And then we get the scene of their first date, kind of part one as they're starting. He sits down with her. They talk about how, they were expecting dating to feel weird, but it just weirdly doesn't feel weird. And they go to like kiss. Then the portal opens up. Dropkick and Fight Master are here to interrupt. Love Eve like putting up the wall to stop them, and they kind of like run into it. And she's like, these guys? And she's still sitting. Very
And
funny.
I love them being like so frustrated and be like, tell me that's not a portal opening up next to us.
Yeah.
And we could say it a dozen times. It so perfectly matched the comics and the little things too. Like they didn't need to put them in Paris, but that's how it is in the comic.
Yeah.
And we also know that Mark took Amber to fake Paris in Vegas because she's a human, like non-superhero. He couldn't take her there in the time that they had. But Eve isn't, Eve's different. Like they can go to Paris. They can go to actual Paris more easily.
Yeah.
So showing that difference between them is,
which I feel like is only even more reinforced by the montage we get a little later on.
Yep.
But Dropkick and Fight Master kind of explain there are millions of lives at stake. They need help overthrowing their king. Mark is the only one strong enough. Mark tells him to get lost and like, I'm not going to do this. And eventually they just kind of like run into him with the time machine and like take him. Then we cut to,
correct me if I'm wrong, but that's not how it was in the comic, right? Didn't Mark agree to go with them in the comic?
He does. Yeah.
Which I liked this more because he's like, I don't know you. I have nothing at stake. I'm on a date. Leave me alone. So
and they try to guilt him into it too, where they say like, maybe you're not the hero we expected. And he's like, I guess not. And then like privately to themselves, they're like, really thought that line was going to work. Like,
I like it. I like this version better because it's different.
Yeah. And they do the same thing though, where Mark goes and then immediately Eve reacts to someone.
Yeah. Very, very cool. So then we cut to the future. And they explain that, if Mark helps, they'll give back the Declaration of Independence after Mark like basically threatens them and picks them up off of their little time machine scooter. Mark agrees, like, okay, I'm going to go. And then like they immediately have the shot of him flying with his clothes. He's like, where do I put these? And the portal opens and Mark grabs the clothes. He's like, hey, thanks. And he's like, was that me? Why did I look miserable? And they're like, just don't ask questions with that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Eventually they see like the world in ruin. And Mark eventually asks them like, what happened here? Like start at the beginning. Tell me what's going on. And then they give the history of the now king of
montage.
Earth. Yeah, where they just go through the montage of this king who was appointed to be in charge of the earth, slowly going mad, slowly starting, needless wars. He's been ruling for hundreds of years. And eventually, as the montage ends, he just says, like, so he's, really hard to kill and been ruling for hundreds of years. Is he a Viltrumite? And they say, we don't know what that is. And I love the, like, watching this, you wouldn't really be sure what, who this person is unless you're a comic reader necessarily.
Mark's tone when he says that is very convincing to those people who don't know. You know what I mean? The way that he says it, you're like, oh fuck, is it a Viltrumite?
Yeah. And it's funny, I was watching this on my like second watch when I was doing my notes with Nicole, and she was watching it with me being like, who is this? And then when they're going over all the ways they tried to kill him, and they're like, we that's why we took the Declaration of Independence. There was a rumor that maybe the ink was going to be poisonous to him. She goes, oh, it's immortal. Immediately knew.
I think I said when we were watching it, like in our reacts, maybe I said, I can't wait to watch this with someone who hasn't read the comic. And Wyatt, you do that. I'm so jealous.
It was very, very fun. But it was great for her to just be like, oh, immortal. Like immediately knew once they bring up the Declaration.
Shout out to that really cool, like stylized art, style that they used for that kind of recap, like history type thing. That was neat.
So then they like intentionally try to get arrested by the robots. Mark doesn't realize that's what they're trying to do first. And we get a cool little action sequence of him like fighting them.
So this is what I want to talk about, especially during this scene. The music in the background is straight up fucking Tron. It is straight up Tron. It's like boom, 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 boom. And it's like the same tone, the same, like it is, it's not exactly, obviously they probably can't do exactly. They probably don't want to do exactly, but it was absolutely intentional.
Yeah. It was very like, Tron.
I need someone to come out and be like, yeah, obviously that was intentional thing. Like it was to simulate the future.
I assume John Paisano, who does all the music for the show, I'm sure he's listening. John, leave a comment. Tell us about
it. Please let us know. I love Tron.
John, I love Tron, by the way, John.
I can't wait for Tron Ares. I cannot wait for Tron Ares. Oh my god.
I feel like the score of this whole season has been really fun and good.
Oh,
like different,
I'm always like every episode there's something that surprises me, that is like, oh, I wasn't expecting this, and then I'm just immediately like very into what it's doing to the scene. It's always great.
I mean, the piano in episode 3 and those dark tones and everything.
Come on. Yeah, they're killing it. Mark, DK, and FM, I wrote in my notes, are escorted to go see the king. DK and FM explain, they kind of explain why they joined the rebellion, how their parents were like forced to help build this giant tower. And this is definitely where that Tron music is like kicking in as they're walking up to this giant tower with like the lights coming out of it. They start being escorted off and they're like, don't worry about us, Mark, just take care of the king, as they're being escorted away to execution. And then Mark meets King Immortal, and just says like, Immortal? And he says, only one man knows me by that name. Is it really you? Title card. And we get the Invincible title card, and it glitches to a gray and white title card, which I was kind of expecting to be saved for maybe a later episode. So I like that we're just going through a lot of the different variations. Yeah.
Yep.
Very, very cool. I was excited to see that. And then we just get like the rapid fire of the Easter egg lines that are meant to entice you and make you wonder. And like when this came out in the comic, it is the moment where you're analyzing every single speech bubble and every line to like, just what does this mean and what could it mean, and will this even come back in the future, because timelines change. And it's brilliant. It's so
this
good.
Is I could almost say this is why we have a podcast. Like, these are the conversations. Like, this is what it was. TJ and I went to Boston in like, I don't know, 2005 or something, 2014, a long time ago. No, 14. It was only 11 years ago.
Just trust TJ because he knows fucking dates like a weird asshole.
It was the first time was this the first time? Yeah, it was the first time we ever met Ryan Ottley, and it was at a Boston Comic Con in 2014. Apparently, I thought it was longer. And this was one of the few questions I asked him, because I was nervous. I didn't know how to talk to him or whatever. Bought some art and everything, and I was like, so the King Immortal stuff, because at this point it was, I think issue 111 had just come out or was about to come out or something. And so at this point, it had been like 50 issues, and we still hadn't really gotten answers. So I'm like, so that whole King Immortal thing, like, you gonna do something with that? What's, and he was like, Robert, I don't know, something. And so, like that's how much this meant back then as comic readers during that era. And we read that issue when it came out. So to be a non-comic reader and to get these lines, like, since you left me in charge, you left with your family, are you still sick? Like,
this was one of those moments, like, us as readers, us as friends, watching this happen was really surreal. It was very, very surreal, because it was one of those things, Ryan, you're right, that we fucking obsessed over, like, and didn't stop talking about. We were like, what is it going to happen now? And then when, I don't want to spoil it, but it was very, it was almost like a dreamlike state when I was watching.
Yeah, that's why I feel like the second viewing was way better, because the first one I was just trying to absorb it. It was just this surreal thing. You're right. It was so crazy.
Let's talk about it though. He said, like, you look skinny, you look weak.
Yeah.
Are you still sick? I thought they found a cure for that. Awesome.
Yeah.
I literally gasped when he called him Emperor.
Yeah,
like, you were the Emperor, like, gasped, because I don't think that was in the comic.
No.
There are just like, I think that's the one big one that sticks out that's different from the comic. But he says you look thin, are you sick again? I thought they found a cure for, and it cuts.
Yep.
He says, you shouldn't have left me in charge. You're the Emperor. You should have known it was too much for me. I'm not a Viltrumite.
Yes.
And didn't he also say you left with your family too?
Yeah, you left with your family. And then later when he asks the whole like, what is this because of Kate? And he says, like, I've had hundreds of wives. I've outlived everyone I've ever loved. Do you know what that does to a man? No, of course you don't, because you were the lucky one. You're the gifted one. Your family could endure.
And then he says, Kate, is that the redhead that you, and he cuts off that you what? What did you do? Oh,
we get a bunch of that. We get a bunch of that. Yeah, go read the comic if you've never read the
Now
comic.
Would be a time. Now would be a perfect time. If
I don't know, the show is going to convince you.
Yeah, I don't know how. I don't know if you like the show this much. If you're watching an animated rated R fucking hour-long show, and you know that the answers are just a page away from like knowing what happens next, how do you not do it?
I'll do you one
as
better.
an aside too, or go TJ.
If you're listening to a podcast about the show that Bill is talking about, then you must love the show.
And just
go
as an
read the
aside
comic.
in general, like if your feed is becoming anything like mine, like I do not envy the show watchers at all who are trying to stay unspoiled.
Oh, God.
Because like every other video I see is people being like, here's what happens in blah 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 blah
Yeah,
blah.
why are they?
That's like
It's
way
like they're
further.
trying to.
It makes me angry when I see it, and
views.
I just try to walk away.
I hate it.
But yeah, stay safe out there if you're trying to avoid spoilers. It's dangerous times. So they cut away from Mark and Immortal to DK and FM escaping, and DK does a DK. I really appreciated that. The dropkick does a dropkick as they're escaping.
Dude, I did not
He like
catch
jumps
that.
up and like kicks him
What?
and does a dropkick. I was like, oh, nice.
Did you
Like
have
that.
to, like, when you realized that, did you go back and make sure that he introduced himself
I
as
100%
Dropkick to
did.
make
I
sure-
had to go back to the back where he was like, I'm Dropkick. That's Fight Master. I was like, okay, he is the one. I was like, there's no way they would make Fight Master do a dropkick. How would you let that
Dude,
happen? No.
Come on. That's going to be an edit.
I was
There you
very
go.
excited about it. Very
I think
excited
I
about it.
actually out loud said like, I fucking like these guys now.
Yeah.
Like their story and like even their like heroism when Mark was like, wait, they're gonna be executed, and they're like, no, we got this. Like you go. I
Yeah.
was like, oh shit. They're not
Yeah.
just like gimmicky, stupid fucking time travelers. They're actually kind of cool.
Yeah. In the comic, they come off a little bit, mostly because they're like ruining the date, that they're just kind of an annoyance. But yeah. They did a good job fleshing them out in this. So then we come back to Mark and Immortal is telling Mark, you did this. You put me here. How many people have died because of you? How many more times, or how many more will die? This is after Immortal is now telling him, like, I need you to end my reign. I can't just kill myself. That would be a coward's way. A king has to fall. And he says, there's only one way you can stop this, to stop me. What kind of man lets others die because he won't act? This is the only way, please. And at some point, Dropkick and Fight Master make their way in there.
Dude.
He has a very like General Zod moment of like, oh, I'll make you do this then.
Yep.
And he's gonna
When
go
he-
attack them.
When
like,
he said, let me show you what I've become.
yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. That was
Yeah.
a great line.
But then
And,
all of his lines there are very much playing into Mark's struggle with killing and stopping somebody before they cause more and more deaths. You know what I mean? Like it plays very well into the arc that Mark is going through in this.
And
season.
Russ Marquand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so he doesn't get like a lot of like, we don't praise Immortal's voice acting a lot because he's just very monotone and kind of
So good.
stoic and but goddamn, he fucking he crushed it.
Oh,
This was
yeah.
great
Yeah.
job.
He sounded like he was on the verge of tears and also
Yes.
angry and yelling at
Just
Mark.
just insanity, desperation, like
Yeah.
the amount of desperation that he had to just end this, and man,
Yeah.
it was great.
Yeah, it was probably my favorite performances so far. It was so good.
Yeah.
Crazy that
I
he's
will
the same
say-
one doing Aquarius. Finally, some action.
Yeah.
Same guy. A lot of range there. A lot of range.
I feel like this might be a thing that's like, how did I not catch this before? And I don't know if this is just something that wasn't as clear in the comic or I forgot. I don't know. But I thought maybe Immortal had just gone crazy in the comics and that's why he was becoming a tyrant. In this, it's much more
You're right.
clear as to why he has
Yeah.
done the things he's done, because he like says it was the only way
Yeah.
for
get
you
your
to
attention.
to get your
draw you
attention.
back here. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I don't remember that being in the
It wasn't.
comic. Oh my
No.
god, that's
I
so
don't think
good.
so.
God,
I think in the comic it was literally just like he's lived too
he's
long.
gone mad.
Like
yeah,
he just lived too long, and in this it
He-
had a
he-
reason.
he
which
knows
was
he
nice.
does.
he-
And
he
it does
believes
make
he's
me
out there
wonder.
and get him
It does
back.
make me wonder, where is this universe's Mark? You know what I mean? Like you're slacking if you left him in charge, and now all of this is happening.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
So yeah, that all happens. They're arguing. He's saying, please. Mark eventually says enough and rips his head off. Mark is kind of like struggling then with the fact that he has now just killed someone again. Dropkick and Fight Master are thanking him, and he's like, please don't thank me for this. Like
Yes.
he's
Oh,
clearly struggling, even though he was asking for it, even though he's now probably saving, millions of lives by killing King Immortal. He has just killed somebody, and that is
he's killed
weighing
so
on
many
him.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's also saved so many
He
people.
saved so many.
Yeah.
And that was one of my favorites in the comic, where he has this quiet moment where he's like pauses, then he's like, he wasn't always this way,
Yeah.
So in this, we got him saying like, yeah, but he also saved people, and don't praise me right now. This isn't something I wanted to do. Let's go.
Yeah. And he eventually, just says like, just take me back. He's like, all right, they get on the scooter, and he's like, there's just one thing left to do. And he grabs his clothes from the previous version of him, clearly looking miserable because of what he just did.
Mm-hmm.
And then he returns back to the present time, and we get Mark and Eve's date part 2. He kind of starts to explain to Eve, and she has this moment where she goes, oh wow, it really was time travel. So I assume from her perspective it was like he gets grabbed and then immediately
it's the same shot of her reacting to him appearing.
So very cool. Very cool. He kind of explains what happened between him and Immortal in the future, and Eve kind of like reassures him and says that, just like the future version of me wasn't me, the future version of you that put him in charge, that's not you either. And our futures are still, yet to be written, and ends by saying, and if you ever turn into a giant world conquering dick, I'll kick your ass until you're back in line. As long as you promise to do the same. And they have a cute little moment. And then she's like, we should get out of here. And Mark's first kind of upset, but she's like, I'm not saying the date's over. I'm just saying we should get out of here. And she sees the Declaration of Independence in his hands.
Oh my God.
And says, is that what I think it is? And he goes, yeah, we'll need to stop in New York. And she says, I think you mean Washington, D.C. And it's just like, I love that they have a bit. You know what I mean? Like they have a bit that they tease each other about, which is just so fun.
Just leaning so hard into Mark just having no idea.
Yeah.
He's smart. Like he's dropped out of college and he doesn't care. He just wants to fly around and punch stuff, and I'm for it.
It's so good. He's so dumb. I love it.
So then that leads us directly into the Mark and Eve date montage, where we see the Declaration first like returned, just shoved between the like door handles, which very dangerous if that door opens the other way and now it's just thrown it out. Like could have been a little more careful. We get this song, I'll Be Your Man by Joji, which I think is the only like needle drop in this episode. Really great. We get shots of them flying around Egypt, flying around each other, landing on the pyramids and like watching the sunset. We get flashbacks to season 1. Then we get them in the present again, like viewing the Northern Lights, going to other places. We get flashbacks to season 2 of little moments like Bill was talking about earlier. And it's just very... It is the 2-page spread that we get right in the comic that is behind them. You're seeing all of the moments of their relationship develop throughout the comic, and we're just getting like the show version of that. And they nailed it.
How great. Is it that in this episode we got King Immortal and we get Battle Beast, the breakout? Yet this is my favorite scene of the episode.
Yeah,
good. I know.
This is my favorite scene. It's
because you're good. Lame. That's how.
I loved all the little like, far away shots of the two of them flying, or even something as simple as the two of them standing there and her being able to fly with her powers and him being able to fly behind her, but his arms are still wrapped around her. Like
the hug from behind is like my favorite shot of this whole montage, just because it feels very human of like, I've walked up behind Nicole and you just like hang on to them for a little while and it just feels very real. And to your point, TJ, of like why this scene hits so much is because we don't get to see Mark just have a happy, calm moment and have some wins. You know what I mean? Like literally in a lot of the fights, people are complaining about it, but just in his life, it's a lot of punishment. It's a lot of heartache. And to see that like, no, he still gets this great moment and this relationship that is working out is incredible after two seasons and a couple episods to see them both finally get this.
And it's heartfelt and it's emotional. Sorry, it's not just like punching shit, Bill.
I would expect Ryan to fucking say that was his favorite part, and it probably is.
Yeah, kind of like it's up there, man. It's up there. It's just there was a lot of pressure to nail this episode and to nail from this issue in the comics, the date.
Yeah.
Like this means a lot to
and that's
fans.
and that's like tied in with, I think, why we reacted the way we did, because we knew, we're getting King Immortal, but we're getting this date. Probably as soon as we saw them on the date in Paris, it was that like, oh, we're doing a big thing right now. Like, this is a big part of the comic. It ends with Mark saying, this is dumb and way too soon, but I love you. And Eve says, I don't know if it's dumb or not, but I love you too. And they kiss.
I have something on that though. That is one thing I will say.
I loved it in the comic.
I didn't love it here. And I understand why, but the reason why I understand why is because I feel like they needed to like move things along, and it felt a little forced to me. Like, we really need them to care for each other like a lot before we get to what we're about to get to. So like it felt like they were like, we just need to have them say, I love you. And we'll call it out and we'll have Mark say like, this is too soon. And we understand that it's too soon. I still didn't like super, I want it a little more fleshed out, but still the scene as a whole, aside from the ending there, I still one of my favorites.
It did. I agree with you, TJ. And part of it reminded me, it made me look at Mark for how old he really is, type thing.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, it does kind of feel like an 18-year-old
exactly
wanting to say it,
Yeah.
Which is fine.
For sure. So that ends, and then we cut to credits there at first, but then the post-credit scene starts, and we cut to Mark and Eve
Quick one.
on his bed, and she does her little powers thing to like undress the two of them.
Just
and
like in the comic.
So perfect. And then we get the narrator. And so, dear audience, and he immediately is like, we got to cut away from this because it's a family show. Many light years from here. And they start to introduce the prison, and we get the big title card, Alan the alien, locked down, but not out. And we get really the second part of this episode, aka another giant post-credit scene.
which the first 10 minutes of this whole part was just a recap of
which is like, it is in the comic too, by the way.
Yeah,
I look back to
we get a handful of like flashbacks recap of mostly just Alan's escapades from season 2, like not all the way back to season 1, and really just like the second half of season 2, him getting captured by Anissa like intentionally to try and find Nolan. Great just narration,
and I think that's the main reason they could have put it, and they did put some of it in the previously on, but they wanted to cheese it up. They wanted the narration,
and throughout all of this, as they're doing the narration, like I put in my notes that the music, we called it out, I think, while we were watching it, feels like Star Wars. It sounds like I'm walking around Tatooine with R2D2 and the Jawas. You know what I mean? It's that very like flute sounds. It's just really fun and creative. We get like as they're kind of wrapping up some of the like previously on, we also then get an execution montage of all the different ways that they've tried to kill Alan, and all of the ways they try to kill Alan just end up killing some of the alien like guards, whether it's the laser bouncing off of him or like things exploding and going through somebody. And it's just constantly very
this is also, I think, where we get Alan pleading with Nolan again, and Nolan's like, no, I deserve this. And then you hear Alan over top.
Oh,
like, oh my God, this again. Are you kidding?
It's after they bring him back after
laser. Why didn't
you? He's like complaining about Nolan just, being in his feels, being in his emo phase where he's just real down on himself. And he's trying to just be like, God, just come on, man. Like, get it together.
Yeah.
So then eventually we get the Viltrumites show up to take Nolan to his execution. Nolan says goodbye, my friend, to Alan, which I feel like is just like seals the deal of Alan. Be like, oh yeah, I'm breaking you out. Shortly after Nolan's taken away, Alan breaks out, which we saw a little tease of. And I think I called it out when we were watching it that I don't know if it's a cover, but it's a shot from the comic that is like Alan in the pose where he looks super buff and everything that they kind of recreated. Really cool. Like I feel like we see that for a lot of the big action sequences. Yeah, that's where it does the title. I feel like we see that where they recreate specific panels for a lot of the big action sequences, but it's cool to see it in even just like some of the less iconic images too. So he says goodbye to Alan. Alan starts breaking out. The Viltrumites are beating up on Nolan, kind of like explaining all of his crimes. and they ask if Nolan has a response, and he just says, "Let the ritual continue." Like he's very much
so something
just
that's
submitting.
a bit, which is a bit different from the comic. In the comic, Alan says it's time, and Alan's like, "It's time, let's go," and he goes to break him out, and like Nolan's on board with the breakout. I'm pretty sure from the comic.
Okay, yeah, you're probably right.
But
So-
he's very much submitted to this.
This kind of half episode is really Alan trying to not only break Nolan out, but convince him to want to live still.
Yes.
Not only break him out, but also set him free.
Yeah, exactly. Break him out of his mental prison as well as the physical one.
See what I did there, TJ? Do you see what I did there, TJ?
Judging by his face, I think he does see, and I don't think he likes it.
Subscribe on our YouTube channel. It's a lot more fun.
So Alan's escaping, and he starts getting attacked by all the alien soldiers, like trying to find Nolan. And so he starts to break out all the other prisoners, saying, "Why should I have all the fun?" And we get a bunch of the alien prisoners that we saw in episode 6 of season 2, when Nolan is first being transferred to the prison. All of them break out. They start helping to fight, and we see my favorite, the little yellow pug man. I was so excited to see him, and then he just gets turned into Swiss cheese right away, and it was heartbreaking to me. He just gets shot full of holes. He doesn't even get a punch off or anything like that. They could have given him something, but it was very sad watching a bunch of them die. And then Alan finds the big door and's like, "Oh yeah, let's see what's behind this thing," and peels it open.
Can I say,
"Excuse me, there's a party going on outside. Do you want to bring the punch?"
This episode probably had the best Alan one-liners. They were so funny. He was so good in this episode.
Yeah,
both him and we're about to say Battle Beast. Both of them, they have found their voice. Like they have found how Battle Beast should sound. They have found how Alan should sound and act, and they've nailed it. Battle Beast is a little more gruff than the last time we saw him. They're just putting a little bit more of a growl on it,
but also less monotone. Like he's much more he uses his upper range of his voice as opposed to always trying to be down. Like he's very much up here and then back down here. So
I think it's too just that he gets a lot more to play around with in this episode. So I think they get to explore it. But yeah, he's who dares disturb Battle Beast, and then Alan does Sir Beast, and when he's trying to talk to him, and eventually he's trying to get him to come help. And he says, "Are there going to be worthy opponents?" He's like, "Yeah, totally." He's like, "Viltrumites?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh yeah, definitely." "How many?" He's like, "Well, there's 3 of them, but one is my friend, so the other 2, they're fair game." And he says, "Fair game. This term pleases me."
Yes.
And so we get cut back to the execution scene with Nolan. One of the executioners says, "What sickness could have changed you so? Maybe it was in him all along. We should investigate his lineage in case the rot goes deeper."
Yes.
Which,
Very
definitely an intentional line.
It
Is that at all related to other things that were said in this episode that were also interesting lines? Who knows? No one knows except people who read the comic. And then they asked they asked Nolan finally, was your betrayal worth your death? And he says, "Yes, and I'm sad you'll never understand." Which
also very, very good. Oh,
exactly. So good.
Well, because this up until this moment, he's kind of bummed that he's let his Viltrum bloodline down, and he's betrayed his people and his culture, but then also the humans. So this was the moment where he kindly finally just admits, he's like, "You know what? I am fucking happy that he shows
he shows his hand sort of emotionally that he has really come around to know that he was in the wrong before and that he should have stopped, and he appreciates those I miss my wife. He knows that he has lost something that was valuable to him. Alan's trying to get them to the execution room. There's a cool scene with Battle Beast and him fighting a bunch of them. Battle Beast is complaining how they're just too easy to kill. He's just biting through
so many heads.
Yeah. He almost fights Alan because he's like, "You seem like the only one who's actually a worthy opponent." and they start hearing like a thudding, and they eventually find the execution room, break in, and Alan again has such good lines where he's like, "Oh man, you look terrible. Did you guys do this? That's not very nice." And then Battle Beast is immediately like, "Viltrumites," and he starts like walking towards them. Alan's like, "Forgive him. He's a big fan. He's been waiting a long time to meet you guys." So funny.
So good.
And Battle Beast is just like amped up, giving the speech about how like, "Oh, I will relish this. And if it leads to my death, I will relish it all the more." It's like, it's so good. Battle Beast starts fighting one of the Viltrumites while Alan fights the other one, trying to free Nolan. And Nolan is still kind of like, "Get out of here. What are you doing? Like, why are you trying to do this?" Alan eventually gets pinned down and starts like saying goodbye to Nolan, being like, "Sorry, I ruined your execution. Looks like I'm going out first." And like eventually Nolan breaks the restraints on him. And like,
shout out to the animation here too.
Yeah, animation's awesome. And Nolan charging at the other Viltrumite, shouting, "Get away from him," and punching. It felt like the first time we're really watching Nolan be heroic and like wanting to save his friend. You know what I mean? Like I know there's stuff on Thraxa that we could like throw into there too of him, being heroic, but this really felt like this is a person that Nolan has been telling himself he doesn't care about, and he's now, getting into a fight and fighting another Viltrumite and ruining the honor of his execution to save him. Like he wants to be heroic. Very cool. They fight. Hang on, where did I leave off? Oh yeah, this is after he hits him. He hits the other one, and Alan is just immediately like, "Good to see you, man. Did you get a haircut? Did you trim your mustache? Did you style your mustache?" Like it's just very, and he's just on the floor all bloody.
Yes. This is when we see Nolan and the other Viltrumite like going at it, and you see a lot of like the Viltrumite moves, and the choreography is really good throughout the rest of this whole fight scene. It's really cool.
Yeah, I even wrote that like it seems like Alan and Nolan are almost like fighting in sync, like they're like kind of swooping next to each other, really. And then eventually one of the prison guards like breaks through the wall and his head's sticking out, and that gives Alan the idea of like, "I think Battle Beast could probably survive in space, right? Don't you think?" And Nolan's just like, "What?" Because this is probably the first time he's heard the words Battle Beast. Like it doesn't even really know what's going on. And so the wall breaks open, they all start floating out. Nolan and Alan are fighting one of the Viltrumites while Battle Beast is fighting his Viltrumite, and they're just kind of slowly floating away from each other. Eventually, Nolan and Alan kind of like get the upper hand, and their fight ends with the fist bump sandwich, I'm calling it, where they punch together, becoming bros finally by squishing a Viltrumite head between their
fist bump sandwich.
Oh,
that's gonna be coined, Wyatt.
Yeah, you know what? You can use that. And then they have a moment where they're like, "Whatever happened to that Battle Beast guy and the other Viltrumite?" And they just cut to them slowly spinning in space,
still fighting
each other. And they cut back and he's like, "I don't know, maybe he bounced or something, but I guess it's fine."
Love that. And I love like Alan being like, "Hey, I want to give you a high five, but we just did that and my hand's really gross."
Yeah. Yeah. Very funny. They have a good little back and forth. And Nolan kind of like asks Alan, it seemed like maybe you recovered pretty quickly, even though you were about to die with that Viltrumite on top of you. And he goes, "Yeah, maybe I was laying it on a little bit thick of him training, but you needed the motivation." And he's like, "Why would you do that? Why would you risk your life to save me? Like no Viltrumite would ever do that." And he goes, "Well, you would, because you did that with Mark, and you actually just did it with me just now, right there. So you did do it." And he says, like, "We're friends now. We spent time in the big house together. Like, I'm not going to let you die." Like, and he starts saying, "We need to get out of here before Planet Punch sends their reinforcements." And Nolan tells Alan how nobody's coming because there are less than 50 pure Viltrumites left. And that is their secret that they want to hide. That is how we're going to win. And they cut away. The narrator brings us back once again to the Grayson home, where Mark and Eve are enjoying each other's company, he says, in bed still. They're kissing, and then Debbie knocks on the door. They get super quiet and is like, why is it locked? And he goes, "Oh, I'm not dressed." And Eve kind of like jabs at him a little bit, and they're kind of giggling. And she's like, "What was that?" And he's like, "It was nothing. It's fine." And she's like trying to hide it. And then there's a quiet beat, and Eve goes, "Do you think she's gone?" And you immediately hear Debbie go, "What was that?" Like she just stayed at the door and was just waiting. And then Eve kind of giggles and says, "We got to get our own place." And he says, "Yeah." And they cut to final credits.
This episode is huge, man.
It's so great. And it's so filled with like those heartwarming moments, those touching moments, and some of the coolest, grossest action sequences with the fist bump sandwich, with Battle Beast like chomping people's heads off. Crazy
You've got the teases with the King Immortal stuff. Like this episode has it all. Like it really does. It's so good.
And that brings us, now that we've recapped this episode, to our doodles. Does anyone want to take guesses about what things people may have doodled?
Someone like who drew the fist bump sandwich?
Oh no, I don't have that kind of talent.
Bill.
Oh, did you? Nice.
No!
Oh wow.
Oops.
Oh,
Go on.
Bye.
Bill,
That's
come
awesome.
on.
That's so good.
Good job.
Look at those veins in.
I
Alan's
actually used the comic for reference. This is a recreation of the comic book.
Very
shot.
cool.
Yeah, thank you.
I was gonna guess that Ryan drew the Declaration of Independence stuck in the door, because that seemed like an item type drawing that Ryan would do.
He did draw something corny involving Eve and Mark.
That's what I was
pyramid.
Not in bed though, because that's too sexy. He needs to have it be heartfelt.
I can see it because of
the wonderful things he does
too. Like I can see it being like their date or something that has to do with them.
No, you won't get this one because this is very unlike me. I would have liked to have drawn something like that, but those all seem difficult. And there's just one shot that really stuck out to me.
Pile of clothes.
Nope. And so I drew this instead.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, that shot is Mark being super menacing. That was when it felt like he was very villainous in a way when he confronts Cecil.
Confronting Cecil, and then with just the way the blood is sprayed across his face. And just that expression he had. I was like, oh, this looks cool. I'm going to try and draw Invincible, probably for the first time ever in our doodles. So yeah, that's what I did.
TJ, I don't know what you drew. There was no Rex in this episode.
I mean, there was. Did you draw Rex with the wafers?
Oh yeah, I can see that.
No,
that's right. I totally forgot.
Ordering pizza.
No, I mean, hit me with the wide shot.
All right, here you go.
Needs to present this in the wide shot.
We didn't get him all last season. It's the return of Battle Beast. Let's go.
That's true. Oh, right. Oh, nice. That's great. Nice little close up on Battle Beast's eyes with the bloody mustache.
Bloody mouth. Yeah. I thought that this was going to be simple, but it was a pain in the dick.
I bet.
It was very fucking difficult.
No, TJ, I appreciate how that reminds me of your Alan or your Rex, but I like TJ when you have those,
or the Cecil Invincible versus Invincible,
or even like the I think you did a chest logo once.
You did. You do up close full.
Super close.
I do
full. Yeah.
TJ's I love how we're all finding when they're like enhance.
Enhance.
Any guesses for mine?
Why did you redraw your little alien guy, but dead this time?
I never drew the alien guy last season.
Who drew that?
I didn't draw the alien.
You know what? I think that was Luis Cortez. Who wrote in with the doodle. That's who it was.
But you're right. I couldn't not draw him. He's gone, but not forgotten. He's our favorite little pug alien man. He's so great. Yes. We'll miss him forever. R.I.P.
That's so good. Yep.
All right. That brings us to the end of our doodles. So now it's time to make some predictions, especially because if you're watching this along with us, this is really one of those first times where we're making predictions. I guess we did at the end of 3, where we didn't know what was going to happen in 4 as well. But this is now, we'll have a week between 4 and 5. What do you guys think we are getting in episode 5? I feel like I'm in the point where I'm trying to do math. I feel like, I know that Powerplex has got to be either this 5 or 6, right? Because I feel like where we're headed, I don't think Powerplex is a 7 or 8. I think he's going to be 5 or 6. I don't know.
I would have the way they were advertising, and I said this like the last 2 or 3 episodes. I feel like the way they were advertising Powerplex, he was going to be much earlier. But now that they're following the comic so closely, now I'm like, well, maybe he's directly before Invincible War, which would mean he's 6, because I'm guessing Invincible War is 7. This is just guesses, which means that he's not going to be guesses. So even though I want him to be the next one, because it's my episode to recap, and I can't imagine what it will be, because Powerplex is the only thing I got. That's all I got left, guys. What else could it be?
So because of that, my like what is it called? My wishes, like my deep cuts or whatever, is Universa. And I'm pretty sure Kirkman said in an interview that that Machine Head is coming back. So we got to get him eventually too.
I didn't know that.
University and Sequence would be really cool.
Dinosaurus, Powerplex, and I think we're gonna get a little extra angstrom. I think
if we get it's a start,
that'd be great.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get a little bit of extra angstrom.
Yeah,
that's a conversation. So in the comic, they reveal Angstrom's plan. What, 2 issues before?
Yeah.
Do we get that? Do we get the? Do you think we're gonna get that in the show? Where it's gonna be?
If we do, it's episode 5. Otherwise,
100%.
keep it.
Yeah, I think you're right too. I think we're definitely also, because I know from some of the stills they've released, I think we're gonna get Business Eve. I think we're gonna get Eve starting up Invincible Incorporated for Mark. And it'll be some of them working together to and then I assume maybe we'll have Titan coming back, because I think that was part of when she does that, is he has the run-in with Titan at the prison again with Mr. Multi-Ball stuff. Well, I think we'll see some of that stuff come back.
Maybe we won't get Universe.
I don't really think that we're gonna get a ton of that stuff. I think
and that's what I mean. That's not a full episode. We just got all the things we just listed from episode 4 is all of those we assumed could be a whole episode, and they were just half an episode or a part of an episode. So I'm excited that I really don't know what to expect. I feel like I know where we're going at the end of this season, and I have some strong feelings about where that's going to be. But especially in this 5 and 6 zone, I'm very excited to see what we get, because I don't know.
We're just very bad at pacing these episodes. We're either making them way too long with one arc, or we're trying to fit too much into it. We can't find a happy medium.
Right.
It's a good thing they don't pay us to do that,
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much. If you have made it all the way through this, thank you so much for watching, listening. It's so fun getting to break these episodes down with you guys and to hear everybody's thoughts. Leave comments down below of what your favorite part of this episode was, what your predictions are going into next week. If you were watching on the live premiere with us and talking in the chat, thanks for hanging out. If you want to email us in the future, theinvinciblepodcast@gmail.com. You can always, of course, follow us on Twitter, Blue Sky, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music. Check out our website, theinvinciblepodcast.com, and our TikTok, where I'm posting lots of fun meme videos, but also little clip outs of our episode breakdowns, of some of our reactions. Go and check all that stuff out.
Also, leave us some reviews on Apple podcasts, because it's been a while since we've had a review. I think September of last year was the last one. So you could be next. You could be the next one that we talk about.
Very true. Until next time, I've been Wyatt.
No, don't.
I've
been Ryan.
We'll see you next time.
We did it! Bye.
I legit had a really hard time not spitting out that water in the beginning of that episode. It took everything.
I'm so glad I covered the window.
I got to the point.
It was the pencil part.
No,
what you're talking about?
Yeah, it was the pencil, because TJ's like, I have a cocktail. What do you have, Ryan? I was like, I have water, and I took a sip of the Bill's like, I have a pencil, and It took so long. My eyes were pouring, and I had to start thinking like sad things.